when we score 7 runs, so they did I think this is from The Athletic. Oh, no, sorry. I pulled this off Twitter. There are comparisons from this season to last season. When we score 7 runs last season, we're 44-2, dude. When we score 7 runs in 2023, we're 10-6. And we have lost 6 straight games when scoring 7 or more runs. And this is where we get into the whole chicken and the egg thing. Like, is it the hitting? Is it the pitching? Is it the pitching? Is it the hitting? When we hit well, the pitching does not stand on its own, doesn't hold up. And then when we don't hit, the pitching is like lights out. It's like, can you guys, hey, real quick, can you guys just get into a room together, conference room, just like talk it out? Like, hey, tonight, let's both play well. When scoring 6 runs, the 2022 Mets, and I know this is like, we have to start thinking of the 2022 Mets as like an anomaly. They were just like, I don't know, is the stars aligned? It was just one of those seasons. It was a magical season that just came to a very abrupt, awful ending. But when scoring 6 runs, the 22 Mets were 55-4. And the 23 Mets are 12-10. When scoring 5 runs, the 22 Mets are 76-5. The 2023 Mets are 22-13. And when scoring 4 runs, the 2022 Mets are 87-8, whereas the 2023 Mets are 26-17. So you would think with the league average ERA hovering around 4-ish, that if we can score 5 or more runs, we should win most of those games. And it looks like that is confirmed, stands corrected. Although you look at 6 runs, when we score 6 runs, 12-10, and when scoring 7 runs, 10-6. That just We've now dropped a home series to all 3 last place teams in the National League, 6-10 against those teams, the Nats, Cardinals, and Rockies, which is just like, and if we miss the playoffs, that's what a lot of people are going to point to. You know, people used to remember last season, we all like would kind of poke fun at the Mets for beating bad teams in ugly fashion, but they beat them. Like, that's ultimately when we're on our deathbed and we look back, that's just going to be W's. No one's going to remember that we nearly botched it in the 9th. Like, we won. So that's what is going to be very upsetting to me if we miss the playoffs, is losing against bad teams with poor records, losing records. When other teams beat up on them, we're not. And that's how we're losing ground. And what's eating away at me even more are the errors. You know, week after week, we've pointed to the defense being so rock solid, and we're first in the majors, or at least the National League, in fewest errors by our defense. And that has, the wheels have come off of that one too. We had 2 errors on Sunday, 13 in our last 11 games. And like I mentioned, the Brandon Nimmo base running error, just lackadaisical. Like, we need mental clarity here. We need to focus and think right, and we're just not doing that. This is the largest division deficit since late in the 2019 season. We're tied for 11th in the National League. We haven't won a series in our last 5 tries. So there's a lot. It's like, you know, I don't think this is rock bottom. It'd be one thing if we were getting blown out every game. I think that would be much more concerning if we looked lifeless and we're losing by 3, 4, 5 runs or more. We're playing fairly close ball games. I'll say that. I wanted to point out Tommy Pham just scored to make it 6-0. And speaking of the devil, Tommy Pham over his pass. Fuck me. Tommy Pham over his past 15 games. 17 for 49, which is good for a 347 average, 6 doubles and a triple, 4 homers and 17 ribbies. Since June 1st, he's batting .324 with a 333 on-base percentage, 703 slugging percentage for a 1.036 OPS. 5 doubles, 3 homers, 11 ribbies, 6 runs and a stolen base. And not to be outdone, Mark Canha's last 15 games, you know, basically filling in for Pete Alonso at first here and there when Mark Vientos isn't doing the job there. His slash line, 302, 434, 512, 3 doubles, 2 homers, 8 walks, 10 ribbies for a 165 weighted runs created plus. I friggin' nailed it for the first time in my life. So, and now Vogelback has gone deep against the Astros, against Hunter Brown. So is Vogelback suddenly catching fire? You know, it's not like exactly a flick of the switch, right? But you're starting to see that I keep saying this, the tides are turning. It does feel like the tides are turning, even though we're not winning a lot of games. We're competitive, and yeah, there are times where the lineup just like forgets. They just forget. But it does feel like we are, for the most part, in most games, mashing, or at least mashing enough to get us wins. And Mark Canha and Tommy Pham have been big reasons why. So good to see them turn around. Now it's Starling Marte's turn. Now it's his turn. Like, it was good to see him get a double, and what does that do? It's like he gets a double, he gets moved to third, and he comes on home. It makes life so much easier when you get these extra base hits. Speaking of extra base hits and slugging, the most home runs by a Met in their first 49 career games. Pete Alonso had 16. Francisco Alvarez has 13. In 49 big league games, Francisco Alvarez has posted a .539 slugging percentage. That's the 19th highest slugging percentage among players younger than 22 in their first 49 career games, with a minimum of 150 at-bats. So he might have cooled a little bit, but I voted for him to be an all-star, and I'm not, I used to be way more of a homer, where it's like, I'm just, as a kid, it's just like Met. No matter how many games they've missed, or like they might not even be on the roster anymore. And I'm like, yep. So but Alvarez was like, Alonso was for sure. I voted for him. And then Alvarez was another one, because I just think he's come on so strong, and he's throwing guys out. You remember there was an episode earlier on when he first came up, and I was bitching about how the pitch clock and these new rules are unfair to catchers. And it seems like he's one of the more successful catchers in throwing dudes out. So only good things coming from Francisco Alvarez. And then we talked about Josh Walker. Josh Walker had a pretty good series against the Yankees and the Cardinals. 4-2 to start his MLB career. 4 2/3 innings, 5 Ks, 1.93 ERA, 1.07 WHIP. Opposing hitters are hitting 188 against him, and he's got a 2.42 FIP, fielding independent pitching. So I think Josh Walker has been a huge boost for the bullpen. Dominic Leone has been underrated in helping out the bullpen. In his last 8 appearances, 9 1/3 innings pitched, 4 hits, 2 runs, 2 walks, 10 Ks, 6 inherited runners, 0 inherited scored for 1.93 ERA. So we got in the darkest of times, correct? And I hate to say this, it's always darkest before the dawn, but you can start to see little shimmers of light peeking through the clouds. Josh Walker, Dominic Leone, Tommy Pham, Mark Canha, Francisco Alvarez. Like, guys are starting to pick up their game. Even Vogelback looks like he's gotten a little bit of his swagger back, a little bit of his mojo. And if everyone can just play up to what they're capable of and not slump, it's so hard. Remember, consistency is key. And we've talked about consistency throughout the season. You need to be more consistent. And we're starting to get guys to come up and play more consistently. And I'll finish this Mets section by saying this.